is so good to see all of you. I'm reminded when we come together like this, we make each other stronger. So thank you. This is great. Thank you very much for the introduction. You know, that's just, it really was. We had a great time together doing CFPB, and we're all going to be out there to protect the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? Yes. So it really is great to be here today for the State Innovation Exchange's annual conference. You know, I want to start by giving a special shout out to all of my folks who are here from Massachusetts. Go Bay Staters. We are loud, we are vigorous, okay? We're in this. Okay, we all know what's happened, and that is nearly a month ago, Americans went to the polls, and Hillary Clinton won the popular vote by 2.5 million votes. Democrats took away seats from Republicans in both the House and in the Senate, but here we are. The Republicans will soon control the White House and both chambers of commerce. So we come together to talk about where we're going to go next. The way I think about this is we start with first things first. Donald Trump ran an ugly campaign that focused on attacks on African Americans, on Latinos, on Muslims, on women, on people with disabilities. The president-elect did his best to stoke fear and resentment of immigrants and to sow division within our communities at home. And we are now seeing the ugly consequences of that rhetoric in the wake of this election, with reported increases in the harassment and hate crimes against racial and religious minority groups. And instead of rejecting this kind of bigotry, instead of speaking out against it, Donald Trump has embraced it. He has invited a white supremacist to serve as one of his top advisors in the White House, and he has plans to nominate for United States Attorney General a man who was once rejected from serving as a federal judge because of his history of racist statements, and a man who has helped lead the charge against immigrants in this country. So for me, this is a time for progressives to say loudly and clearly, there is no place for bigotry in the United States of America. None. When we get together, we start with first principles, and our first principle is respect for the rights and dignity of every American, and it will remain a core principle of democracy. We will not compromise on that today, tomorrow, or ever. That's where we start. We will fight back against bigotry, and we will fight any Republican efforts to hurt working families across this country. You know, over the next several years, we know that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are going to pursue some pretty destructive policies at both the national and the state levels. Just get ready for it. Voter suppression, restrictions on access to abortions and women's health services, crackdowns on immigration, rollbacks of labor rights, LGBT rights, healthcare access, and environmental protections. Some of these battles are going to happen here in Washington, in our Congress, and some are going to happen in the courts. But in many cases, these battles are going to play out in state legislatures. They're going to play out where you're going to be on the front line. And that means that it is essential that we have progressive voices standing firm on the side of working families and standing up for the rights of all Americans. That's what we need from you. Now, I don't kid myself about this. We're going to be on defense. Those are the kind of places where we're going to be on defense. But you know what? We got to get out there on offense as well. We got to lead the fight for progressive policies. And I'll tell you why. Because it is absolutely clear that the GOP Republican policies don't have majority support in this country. More than half of voters voted against Donald Trump. And half of those who did vote for Donald Trump said the main reason that they did so was to, quote, shake up the political establishment, not to endorse the policy agenda of congressional Republicans. So if there is any kind of definitive mandate from the American people from the 2016 election, it seems to me it's to make government work for working families, not for big corporations, not for wealthy interests, but to make it work for working people across this country. Yeah. I know you all have been looking at some poll data, and I don't know if this is the one in particular that anyone brought to your attention, but it's one that really has stuck with me. And that is that according to exit polls, 70% of voters said they think that the American economy and the lawmakers who oversee it are owned by big companies and special interests. I want you to think about that. That's 70% of everybody. Democrats, Republicans, independents, libertarians, vegetarians, the whole group. And that's something we've got to think about how it is that we make it clear that we're not out there just to fight for giant corporations. We're not out there just to fight for special interests, that we are the party on the side of working people. That's what we have to make clear. Now, I want to make it clear, too, we're going to have to start this fight with redistricting. We need to be in this one from the beginning. I say from the beginning. The hour is already late. From the beginning should have been back in 2011. But we've got to get deep into this, because if people have fair representation, then we are more likely to have a government that represents them. You know, I was glad to see just a couple of weeks ago that a federal court ruled that the state assembly districts in Wisconsin are unconstitutionally drawn to benefit Republicans. Go courts! But I want to be clear, as glad as I was to see a court step up on this, we can't count on the courts to resolve this problem. It is time for Democrats to focus our efforts on real reforms in the redistricting process to ensure that Americans have fair representation at both state and federal levels. You know, I'm not telling you anything, that the country's going to have a new round of redistricting in just a few years after the 2020 census, and our work on that starts now. So I hope we're going to be strong and be together on that part. Redistricting matters. Now, the American people are also unambiguous about the kinds of economic policies that they support. And I just want to draw a line again under this. This doesn't come just from our party. This comes from people themselves. You know, one poll released after the election showed that about 2/3 or more of both Clinton and Trump supporters, think about that, 2/3 or more of the people who got out basically and voted on Election Day would like to see paid family and medical leave. Yeah, would like to see more funding for child care, would like to see increased investments in clean energy. This is where America is. And at the state level, I don't have to tell you all, we approved ballot initiatives to raise the minimum wage in Arizona, Colorado, Maine, and Washington. It's there. People want to see us make these changes. It is time to make this country work, not just for giant corporations or for billionaires, time to make this country work for the rest of America. You know, state legislatures are going to be powerfully important in this fight. I have seen it firsthand at home in Massachusetts, you know, from protecting the first court decision granting marriage equality to passing health care reform. The legislature of our Commonwealth in Massachusetts led the fight for reform. And in state after state, you remember, people fought back against us. They fought us on marriage equality, and they fought us on access to health care. But we fought back. Progressives stood together, and state by state, and eventually at the national level, we proved that we can make change in this country. And we also proved that change, good change, doesn't just start at the national level. Good change starts at the state level and then sweeps across this country. We're counting on you on this. I was so glad to see the progressive economic blueprint that the State Innovation Exchange has put together, because it's a great example of how states can lead. The policy solutions that are outlined in this report are smart, bold ideas that can help level the playing field for working families and help build an economy that works for all of us. You know, it comes down to this. We need you. In the fights to make America work for more families, in the fights to build more opportunities, we need you. And we need you because you're the ones who are on the front lines. And when we're loud enough and strong enough, person to person, city to city, state to state, then Washington won't be able to ignore the progressive voices in this country. We need you. When I was invited to come here today, I said, yes, I want to come. But one of the reasons I particularly wanted to be here, I wanted to talk about the message of how important your work is. But there's a second reason. You know, there's a reason we get together instead of doing all of this electronically, instead of doing all this back at home. We get together because I really do believe we make each other stronger. And one of the things we do when we get together is we reaffirm what it is we fight for, why it is that we're out there, what it is that gets us up in the morning and keeps us up late at night. And so I just wanted to wrap up today by saying together with all of us here a little bit about the values that we share and the values that we will be out there fighting for. You know, I just want to start with a core one. No one in America should work full-time and still live in poverty. And that means raising the minimum wage. We are in this fight all the way. All the way. All the way. You bet. And we got to say another one, and that is that every young person in this country is entitled to get an education without getting crushed by student loan debts. We need debt-free college. We need affordable educational opportunities, not just for some of our kids, but for all of our kids. And we believe that workers have a right to come together, to bargain together, to set wages and working conditions. Unions built America's middle class, and unions will rebuild America's middle class. That's how we'll do it. You bet. And I'll tell you another one. We believe that after a lifetime of hard work, People are entitled to retire with dignity, and that means protecting Social Security, protecting Medicare, and watching out for our seniors. That's what we do. And I can't believe I have to say this one in 2016. But we do, and we got a fight on our hands. We believe in equal pay for equal work and a woman's right to decisions over her own body. And we will fight. Yes. Yes. And let's be clear. We believe that equal means equal, and that's true in marriage, it's true in the workplace, it's true everywhere in this country. Equal means equal. I want to mention another one that I know is highly controversial, so if everybody could just be calm for a minute, put down your water glasses. We believe in science. We believe that climate change is real and that we have a moral responsibility to pass along an earth where our children and grandchildren can breathe the air and drink the water. That is our responsibility. And we believe all the way down to our toes in keeping families together, in common sense immigration reform, and that no matter how many times Donald Trump says it, we will not build a stupid wall in America. Yep. Now, Donald Trump calls African Americans thugs, he calls Muslims terrorists, he calls Latinos criminals, and he brags about sexually assaulting women. Well, we believe that racism and bigotry and sexism have no place in our country. We believe that Black lives matter, and we believe it is diversity that makes our country strong. You bet we do. Yep. Okay, now you realize I could do this all day. I'm just going to do one more. I'm just going to do one more. I'm going to do one more because it is an important part of what's gone wrong in our democracy. We believe that millionaires and billionaires and giant corporations should not be able to buy our elections, that corporations are not people, that we must overturn Citizens United, that we must return democracy to the people. That's what we believe. That's what we believe. Yes, we do. It does me good to be here with you today. And I hope it does you good too. You know, you bet. And I'll tell you why. Because we are in a fight for the people who sent us to fight for them. You know, the way I see this is, yeah, it didn't turn out the way I'd hoped in November. But I didn't get in this business so that I could have an easy job. I got into this because I believe in fighting for the people who need us. And after November, they need us more than ever. So we're going to be in this fight, shoulder to shoulder all the way. Are you ready? You ready for this? Let's do this. I'm counting on you. Thank you.